everyone, Nicole Steckline, Technical Agronomist for DeKalb and Asgrow in Northeast Iowa. And that big shiny thing up there, it's the sun! And we haven't seen it in a long time because we've had a lot of locally really heavy rainfall, which really is what's fueling the topic for this video, which is stalk rots and ear rots. The moisture that we've gotten season long, while rain makes grain, it also makes a lot of other things. So all that moisture season long has kept that fungi, that soil fungi and microbes really active in the soil season long. And now that plants are starting to senesce and we're starting to get some dead tissue, that fungi is really taking advantage of it, and it's moving into that plant where it's taking care of maybe some of the dying tissue, infecting that stalk, and then rotting out the inside of that stalk, compromising our standability. The other thing that all this rain is doing, I'm telling you right now, I couldn't walk through a cornfield this late summer with my mouth open and not get a protein shake. There was just a lot of insects out there this year. A lot of insects, we've got extra feeding, and then we've got more entry points for stalk rots, ear rots, crown rots, root rots. And we're seeing them all. So why don't we start off looking at stalk rots? So as we can see here on this stalk, we've got a lot of different things going on, but let's start at the bottom. So you can see that this crown here is brown and dead. So we started off with some Fusarium crown rot. In many cases, the crown rot will start earlier on in the season, and then as it plugs up kind of the plumbing of this plant, and we can't move water and nutrients from the roots to the rest of the plant, it weakens it and then allows for a lot of these other stalk rots to come in. So Fusarium, there's many different species of Fusarium in the soil, and a lot of those species will infect our crop. So we've got Fusarium crown rot, and then you can also see this pink color, that red color coming into the roots. So we're also seeing a Fusarium species starting to cause red root rot as well. As we move up the plant, we can see that the nodes are starting to rot away, and those nodes rotting away, usually you'll see Fusarium starting at the crown or at the nodes and then spread into the inner nodes. Now we also see this black color, this rot, which will spread from inner node to inner node, and that one is caused by anthracnose. We can also identify anthracnose from the outside, so you can see where this rind here has those black splotches on the outside. That's anthracnose showing itself on the outside of the stalk. So when we take a knife and we split this open, and we open that up, we can start to see that black rot on the inside in these inner nodes, causing that plant to die early and sacrifice its standability. So right here we have a really nice color example of what we'll typically see from a Fusarium species. Now, Fusarium species cause both things like Fusarium crown rot, root rot, Fusarium stalk rot, as well as gibberella. So both gibberella and Fusarium species can give us this pink color, which can be hard to distinguish between. One of the differences is that Fusarium will start at the node and then move through here. It could be gibberella. Gibberella tends to like this wet environment, where Fusarium stalk rot tends to prefer a little bit drier environment, which is why they tend to have more Fusarium in the dryland acres like in Nebraska and Kansas. But given the amount of Fusarium that we're seeing from the crown and the root rot, I'm willing to bet that this is probably more Fusarium stalk rot with a little bit of gibberella in there. So I'm thinking I have probably scared you enough into going out, slogging through the mud, and scouting your corn for stalk integrity issues as well as stalk rots. That's a good thing. So let's talk about management. So looking at stalk rots, it's not quite as important to differentiate and identify which types of stalk rot you have. It's not as important as the ear rots because it's not going to change how we manage this crop. So for the most part, when you end up with a stalk rot, you're going to end up with stalk rots in general because they all kind of start, flowing into this plant as soon as we get that tissue that's desiccating. So it can be hard to differentiate which one you have. Management for the future, obviously, if you have fields with heavy infection, heavy inoculum loads, Mark that down in your books, in your climate account, whatever it is, so that you can manage that for the next years. So tillage and crop rotation can both help. Tillage is going to help to break this residue down faster, so there's not as much residue to harbor that inoculum as if you were in a no-till situation and leaving that residue on the surface. Rotation can help, but it's not going to eliminate the problem completely. So looking forward, we want to be choosing and placing hybrids that have good ratings for crown health, as well as anthracnose stock rot and other stock rots, as well as spraying a fungicide on. So fungicides are not going to stop a stock rot infection like when we think about spraying a foliar fungicide and stopping, gray leaf spot, northern corn leaf blight. Because these fungicides aren't actually systemic, where they aren't going to move throughout the plant. They're going to move with the xylem, with the water, out. They aren't going to relocate into that stock. So it's not actually stopping the infection. However, it is keeping this plant alive and healthy longer, so that it's better able to fight off those infections, and it stays healthier for longer, giving you better standability and better stalk integrity. It's time to talk ear rots. So unlike with stock rots, where it's not vitally important to be able to distinguish which stock rot you have, it is important when it comes to ear rots, because some ear rots have the potential to cause toxins, which can A, get your load rejected at the elevator, and B, cause harm to livestock, possibly killing them, aborting pregnancies, as well as reducing profitability and productivity of that animal. So the first one that I've got here is Diplodia. Now, Diplodia does not produce toxins. However, I show it because it's probably our #1 ear rot that we've been seeing, and we had quite a bit of it last year too. So Diplodia itself is actually an infection of the ear shank, and this infection happens at silking through about the 2-week period after silking, and it's environmentally driven. So if we have a lot of water during that 2-week period after silking, we're at a higher potential for having Diplodia. Since it is an infection of that plant part, that shank, it is the only one that we can breed resistance into. So Diplodia, white mummification from the base to the tip, non-toxin producing. Gibberella is fairly easy to identify because of its color. It gives us a really nice pink color. Sometimes it can be closer to red, other times it's more of a white, but it's kind of the opposite of Diplodia, where Diplodia is that mummification from the base to the tip. Gibberella is a pink to pinkish white or red mummification from the tip to the base. So Gibberella, easy to identify, important to identify because it does have the potential to produce toxins. The next one is pretty unassuming looking, and that's Fusarium ear rot. So you'll usually have little spots throughout the ear, or especially, if you have any kernel damage here or there, it's going to start in those spots, and it's going to give us kind of a white mold look. It can also give you like a white starburst within the kernel. Fusarium, not scary looking, but it can cause toxins. Next one here is Penicillium. Penicillium is a really nice blue-green color. You're usually going to see it starting from the tip and coming down, particularly following damaged kernels. So this one, in most cases, won't cause or produce a whole lot of toxins in the field. The biggest thing with the Penicillium is if we don't get this fungus killed, and if we get those wet, warm spots in the bin, that mold will continue to grow, and then it will start to produce toxins. So really important to be able to identify this one so we know how to manage it in storage. The last one that I have here looks really scary. It's Cladosporidium, which is black. So it will cause the inside of the kernel to turn black, or you can also have some fuzzy black to dark green growth around the kernel, on top of the kernel, along the rows. So doesn't produce toxins, but it's quite alarming when you see it. All right, so as far as why we have it this year, ear rots are primarily influenced by environment, and it likes it wet. and we have been wet. So we're gonna see ear rots. The other part of it is, along with all the moisture, we've had plenty of insects. The more insects we have out there damaging kernels, the more direct access these ear molds have into these kernels. So as far as prevention, we're looking at planting treated corn. So the Smart Stack's giving us the activity against western bean cutworm, corn earworm, fall armyworm. Yes, they need to bite it to die, but they aren't getting the opportunity to damage as many kernels. On the flip side, we are also having a lot of insects out there, secondary pests, that aren't controlled by the traits, such as stink bugs and silk bug larvae that I am seeing damage kernels as a secondary pest. So overall, just insect protection as well as scouting. Pick this corn with these ear molds. Try and go out there and be harvesting at that 22 to 25%. Get it down and dry it hot and fast. Get it in the bin and cool it off. This will help to eliminate any in-storage fungal growth and toxin production. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Considering what we put this corn crop through, we've really got a lot of yield potential out there. So make sure you're getting out in your field, scouting, and making your harvest priority lists. Until next time, call, text, or email with questions. Let's get to it.